What is going on, Pirate Nation? Welcome in to episode 2 of Jungle Tales, coming to you here on Tuesday, July 16th. We're going to be talking East Carolina Pirate baseball from a variety of angles over the next 60 to 75 minutes. Here in a few minutes, we'll have a recorded conversation from January of 2021 with the late Earl Boykin. Earl was a member of that 1961 NAIA National Championship team. And unfortunately, back in September of 2022, we lost Earl, after a prolonged sickness. And he was a diehard Pirate, and definitely more about Earl here in just a few minutes. Right now, before we dive into what's happened with the MLB Draft over the last 3 days, I wanted to plug our first episode. And again, the Jungle Tales Pod, an ECU baseball podcast that can be found on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. We're also on social media on X, aka Twitter, as well as Instagram, IG. But to promote that first episode, we caught up with Bethany Bratcher. Bethany's, of course, a Greenville resident. She has been for 25 years. Very well known throughout the community. Did an excellent job for over a decade covering ECU athletics for Bonesville.net. And she wrote the book Coaching Third, the Keith LeClaire story, which was published and released back in 2010. And here, about 3 months ago, she released Never Take This for Granted, Around the Diamond with college baseball's most devoted fan base. So definitely wanted to promote those books. Definitely encourage you to go to ecubaseballbook.com. Again, ecubaseballbook.com to get Never Take This for Granted. It's also available on Amazon, as well as I believe at some other places like Kaufman's there in Greenville. But I encourage you to go through ecubaseballbook.com or Kaufman's, and the reason why is because 50% of the proceeds will go to the 23 Club. The 23 Club is, of course, ECU Baseball's NIL collective under the Team Boneyard hat. And if you purchase your book in the next month, between now and August 15th, so between now, July 16th and August 15th, 50% of that will go to the 23 Club. You can also make a donation to the 23 Club directly. Just go to 23club.org. And by doing so, you can make that $23 a month or any donation that you choose. No amount is too small as we look to push ECU baseball forward and give that program everything it needs to be successful, moving into 2025 and beyond. And kind of moving on from that to the MLB Draft, you have, so many guys that were getting drafted, be it guys that have exhausted their eligibility or guys like Jacob Jenkins Cowart, Ryan McChrystal, et cetera, that had the chance to get drafted, that it was looking, fairly slim that they would be back in the purple and gold in 2025, but you, of course, never know how that's going to play out. So very quickly, let's go through those draft picks and, how things unfolded for the Pirates in the 2024 MLB Draft. First of all, congrats to Trey Savage. Trey Savage, what a great career that Trey had for the Pirates. Going into the draft, we knew he was undoubtedly going to go in the first round. It was just a matter of when. You had seen anywhere from the 10th to the 15th pick, ended up going 20th a little bit later, but, still, slotted around a $4 million or $4.1 million signing bonus for Trey. So congratulations to he and his family. But the Pirates have now had a pitcher taken in the top 2 rounds of 3 of the last 4 MLB drafts. You had Gavin Williams in 2021, Carson Whisenhunt in the second round, going to the Giants back in the 2022 draft, 66th overall pick, and now Trey Savage. You had Jeff Hoffman go 9th overall. He is the highest selection ever out of ECU. Started to say after the 2014 season to the Toronto Blue Jays. And of course, that's where Trey's going. He was taken by the Blue Jays with that 20th overall pick in the first round. And then here in a few minutes, we'll talk about another Pirate that was taken by Toronto. But before we talk about the other Pirates that were taken on days 2 and 3 in the draft, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on Trey Savage's career with ECU. What an excellent junior year he had. The Boyertown, Pennsylvania native, and he stayed true to this program when he had the chance to leave for at least one, if not multiple programs for six-figure paychecks. But, he loved playing baseball for East Carolina. And all that entailed, and just a breath of fresh air seeing Trey Savage stay true to the ECU program. But you take a look at Trey. Trey over his sophomore and junior seasons, he went 18-2 with an ERA in the low twos. He struck out 250, had a strikeout to walk ratio of nearly 5-1. And opponents managed just 102 hits against Trey in 170 innings. And as good as Trey was in 2023, he really took it to another level this season. After pitching for Team USA, the Collegiate National Team, in the summer of 23, he developed his secondary stuff, had a very legit 4-pitch mix, and that secondary stuff was superb. He was and this was, I want to give credit here to 643 Graphics on X. We shared it on our Jungle Tales Pod social media accounts. We can be found at Jungle Tales Pod on X and IG. But we passed along that graphic put together by 643 Graphics on X and IG. And that was a graphic that was simply highlighting Trey's versatility and his excellent swing and miss stuff. And that graphic noted that Trey was the only Division I pitcher to have 4 different pitch types with whiff rates in the 90th percentile or better. For instance, his slider ranked 3rd nationally, 58.2% whiff rate. His changeup, 6th, 56.6% whiff rate. So just an unbelievable junior season, final year in the purple and gold for Trey Savage. Congratulations to him. And definitely will be following him as he makes that trek to Toronto over the coming year plus. We shall see how quickly he rises through that Toronto minor league system. Moving on to days 2 and 3 of the draft. On day 2, on Monday, you had 3 more Pirates drafted. Jacob Jenkins Cowart went in the 8th round, 244th overall to the Miami Marlins. Ryan McChrystal, who grew up a Philadelphia Phillies fan, he will now be in the organization of the NL Central team as he was taken in the 9th round, 269th overall by the Cincinnati Reds. Then the 3rd Pirate drafted on day 3 was Carter Cunningham. Can't help but be so happy for Bart. Just a well-rounded individual, excelled on the field, but then also, even more importantly, in the classroom and in the community, raising, with the help of his teammates and the Pirate fans, $50,000 for Maynard's Children's Hospital, which we highlighted on our initial episode if you missed it. But Carter Cunningham, a.k.a. Bart, went 307th overall, also to the Toronto Blue Jays. So he'll be coming up through that Toronto Blue Jays farm system with Trey Savage. That was part of the 10th round on Monday. Everyone definitely very happy for Carter. But moving on to day 3, you had Wyatt Lunsford Shinkman, the Pirates' ace closer. He went 483rd overall in the 16th round to the Mariners. And then also on day 3, you had ECU signee Michael Carpenter out of Madison College at JUCO in Wisconsin. Michael went 338th overall in the 11th round. And according to what I'm hearing, both of those guys will sign. Jacob Jenkins Cowart, Ryan McChrystal. We'll get to their messages on Instagram for Pirate Nation here in just a moment. But the word is, we're thinking that they would sign, and that is in fact going to be the case. with where they were drafted in the 8th and 9th rounds, respectively. And those slots in the draft are supposed to pay anywhere from just under to just over $200,000. So nice little paydays and signing bonuses for Jacob Jenkins Cowart and Ryan McChrystal. And from everything I'm hearing, Wyatt Lunsford Shinkman and Michael Carpenter will sign as well. But getting back to JC's message for Pirate Nation, aka JJC, he said, "Thank you, ECU Baseball, for turning a skinny little boy into a slightly less skinny man. I've made relationships here that will last a lifetime. I cannot thank God enough for steering my life through Greenville, North Carolina." And Ryan McChrystal also had a message for Pirate Nation on Instagram saying, "ECU, I cannot put into words how special these 3 years have been. Thank you for taking in a know-it-all 18-year-old and forming me into the 21-year-old that I am today. The relationships built here with my brothers and with the best fans in the country are without a doubt the greatest thing to ever happen to me. From growing up a Pirate fan to hosting regionals, super regionals, and being baptized on the field with my brothers, it could not have been a better experience. I love you, East Carolina." Purple heart emoji. So, some great words there from Jacob Jenkins Cowart and Ryan McChrystal, and just showing what the East Carolina program and Pirate Nation mean to them on social media and just throughout their experience over the last 3+ years. And kind of moving on with the next aspect of our show, don't want to spend too much time on this right now, but definitely want to reiterate and emphasize the importance of the 23 Club. I talked about how if you purchase Never Take This for Granted, the book by Bethany Bratcher, between now and August 15th, 50% of those proceeds will go to the 23 Club. So the 23 Club, it's imperative. Whether you like it or not, it's a reality. And the fact is, in baseball, you have 11.7 scholarships. Guys are not on full rides as they are in football and men's basketball. And I'm certainly not discouraging anyone from giving to Team Boneyard to support either of those programs. But if you are one of those individuals that's kind of on the fence as far as contributing to NIL, and in this case, the 23 Club under the Team Boneyard hat, I encourage you to do so. Those guys are, for the most part, on anywhere from a 25% to a 45% of a scholarship. Some of those, even guys that are significant contributors, are getting no scholarship money. They may be receiving a little bit of NIL money or other financial aid to help support their cause during their time as a Pirate. So you can take pride in knowing that you're not allowing a college kid to get rich. You're allowing a college kid to cover the cost and have an excellent experience playing baseball in one of the best programs in the country at East Carolina. So moving on from the 23 Club, like I said at the open of the show, we will here in a few minutes have about a 45 to 50 minute conversation, with Earl Boykin. Many longtime Pirate fans and residents of Eastern North Carolina are certainly familiar with Earl. Again, he played for East Carolina College and was a member of that 1961 NAIA National Championship team. And unfortunately, we lost Earl back in September of 2022. In that extended conversation, it's one that you'll really enjoy, highlighting what it was like to win that national championship, what it was like playing baseball, and being a college athlete back in the early 1960s. So much has changed, but that was an experience that Earl understandably treasured. And Earl bled purple and gold up to his passing in September of 2022, and wanted nothing more than to see ECU baseball get to Omaha and attempt to win another national title. Before going to that conversation, we want to provide you with a quick update on the transfer portal and kind of a little bit of the early look at what the ECU roster will look like in 2025. So we'll have that, and then also a pro report what the guys in the MLB as well as minor league baseball are doing, and then how Pirates in the summer collegiate leagues are performing. So obviously, you're losing Trey Savage. Zach Root entered the transfer portal, wound up at Arkansas. And then you factor in you're not going to have Jake Hunter for probably the first few weeks and maybe several weeks of the 2025 season. That's kind of up in the air. Although we did get good news several weeks back that Jake Hunter's injury was not as significant as originally thought, which was great. Obviously, you lose your top bullpen option in Danny Beal, who made 35 appearances and was so clutch time and again throughout his last two seasons, especially in 2024. I think just the way he was relied on, he could not have given this program another ounce. He left all his blood, sweat, and tears there on Lewis Field at Clark LeClaire Stadium. But anyway, we certainly had the need as a program to bring in some arms out of the portal. On the mound, Cliff Godwin and staff have done just that with the addition of Ryan Towers out of Loyola Marymount and Brad Pruitt from Oklahoma. I actually mentioned Brad Pruitt on episode 1 of Jungle Tales and talked about the successful summer he's had with the New England Collegiate Baseball League's Newport Gulls as a teammate of Dixon Williams. Brad Pruitt, originally from Denton, Texas. He's a right-hander, 6'3", 200, 205 pounds, depending on where you see it listed. And as I mentioned, he was an Oklahoma Sooner in 2024. Coming out of high school, he was a top 50 prospect in the state of Texas and ranked the 18th best right-handed pitcher in the Lone Star State in the class of 2023. During that freshman season with the Sooners, he appeared in 10 games. His longest and best outing was 2 shutout innings against West Virginia, which was, of course, a super regional team. This summer, as I mentioned, he's playing with Dixon Williams with the Newport Gulls. He's got a 4-pitch mix from what we hear. Fastball that's anywhere from 92 to 95. Probably more of a 92 to 93, topping out at 90, 95. But, right after he committed to ECU, he's had 2 excellent starts. And then, in that first start after signing or committing to the Pirates, he struck out 8 and walked just 1, and then backed that up with another excellent start. Now turning our attention to Ryan Towers, who played his first 2 seasons of college baseball for the Loyola Marymount Lions in the West Coast Conference. He is a lefty. He's got good bloodlines, as his dad, Josh Towers, pitched 8 years or parts of 8 seasons in the big leagues, as he spent 2001 to 2009 in the MLB, or in MLB with the Orioles, Blue Jays, and New York Yankees. Again, Towers is a southpaw, right around 6 feet. He appeared in just 3 games in 2023, but took on a prominent role in 2024, seeing action in 14 games, with 13 of those being starts. He pitched just over 50 innings and had an ERA of 4.91. He went a season-high 6 innings against Villanova and Gonzaga. Against Nova, he struck out 10 and allowed just 1 hit in those 6 frames. And against the Zags, he allowed 3 runs, but just 2 earned on 3 hits in that 6-inning outing. He also had quality starts against the likes of San Diego and Pepperdine. In San Diego, that 5 1/3 innings against the Toreros, he allowed just 1 run on 4 hits. And San Diego USD was a regional host in 2024. As far as his stuff, 88 to 90, occasionally touching 91 or 92 with that fastball, changeup 81 to 84. Slider 79 to 82, and curveball 73 to 75, according to Hoist the Colors and Stephen Igo's research. So give credit to HTC 24/7 Sports there. Positionally, the Pirates will be losing Carter Cunningham and Cam Claunch at first base. Obviously, Carter also played a little in the outfield. You obviously lose Joey Barini and Jacob Starling in the middle. Dixon Williams has the flexibility to play second or third. Obviously played very well at third, but said that second was his more natural position and felt good there when he had to play when Jacob Starling was battling the injury mid-season. He could probably also play shortstop if he absolutely had to, but you no doubt have a lot of versatility with Dixon Williams. You have Colby Wallace returning this year. He played third, but perhaps you see him some at first, depending on how much he's used on the mound in 2025. He could also, obviously, as he did this year, DH to help save that arm. The Pirates are adding Alex Boucher. Alex actually played for South Central out in Winterville during at least 3, if not his entire high school career, before moving on to Old Dominion. Boucher was someone that this staff was familiar with. They'd recruited him before, in addition to competing against him when the Pirates played the Monarchs. But they capitalized on that relationship and brought in a guy that in 2023 hit 299 with 11 home runs and 45 RBIs. This year, unfortunately, battled an injury, and those numbers took a fairly significant dip. Only hit about 240 or 245 with maybe 4 or 5 bombs. But I feel very confident in a healthy Alex Boucher and what he'll bring to the table for East Carolina. And before we move on from Alex and his story and how he matriculated to ECU, very cool story. It's something that was shared by Trent Britt of Next Level Training Center in Greenville. So much respect for Trent and the job he does there with Next Level. But Trent shared this on X, aka Twitter, right before Boucher committed to the Pirates. And it was awesome. Alex was getting some swings in at Next Level, and the kids at one of the camps that they had going on at the time started chanting his name. And then several seconds later, followed it up with chants of ECU, ECU. And then Alex, of course, made that decision to become a Pirate. So look forward to his career in the purple and gold over the next couple years. On a future show, probably sometime in August, we'll take a deep look at the 2025 roster after things have become more finalized and settled heading into the fall semester, because the staff will certainly be adding more pieces from the portal between now and then. So now taking a look at some of the Pirates in MLB, you have Alec Burley, finishing the first half of the season with a bang. He is now hitting 288 at the All-Star break, 17 bombs, 53 runs batted in. The Cardinals are sitting about 5 games back of the Brewers in the NL Central at the All-Star break. Moving on to the National League All-Star, Jeff Hoffman. Hoff has done nothing, I don't believe, but throw up zeros since being named to the All-Star team. And at the All-Star break, I believe he's appeared in 41 games and looking like he will blow last year's 54 appearances for the Phillies out of the water. Jeff has 9 saves and a minuscule 1.12 ERA at the All-Star break. Gavin Williams, as we mentioned on our previous episode, he had a poor 4th inning in his first start after being activated, but has pitched well since. He went 5 1/3 against the Tigers in start 2, allowing just 4 hits and striking out 5. And then he followed that up with a decent outing against the Tampa Bay Rays down in Tampa. Sean Armstrong, former Pirate pitcher from the Billy Godwin era, also saw action and pitched well in that game. Sean has appeared in 34 games for the Rays this year, primarily in relief, but he also has been used, I should say, in that opener role several times, as Tampa likes to employ an opener. And despite appearing in 34 games, has just worked a little over 40 innings. He worked a shutout inning against Cleveland, as I mentioned the other night, and that was nice to see, as he had struggled in his last few appearances. Moving on to the minors, Connor Norby. Norbs continues to tear up AAA Norfolk. He extended his hitting streak to 6 on Saturday night. Not sure what he did on Sunday, but as of the games completed on Saturday, July 13th, Connor Norby had hit safely in 13 of his last 14 games, and for the year was hitting .299 with 16 home runs and 52 runs batted in. Norbs also has 21 doubles. I'd love for it to work out for him with the Orioles, but it'll be interesting to see if he is dealt, as they are in a championship hunt this season. And clearly, they stack some talent and may not have the need to bring him up. And it'll be interesting to see if he is used as trade bait to acquire a greater position of need as the Orioles make a postseason run. But Carson Whisenhunt, he is with the AAA Sacramento River Cats and the San Francisco Giants organization with the Sacramento River Cats. He has struck out 102 batters in 77 innings, and in his most recent start, allowed 3 runs on 5 hits in 4 innings. Zach Agnos with the AA Hartford Yard Goats and the Colorado Rockies organization. In 4 appearances with the Yard Goats, Zach has allowed just 1 run on 5 hits in 5 innings. You have Trey Benton with the Akron Rubber Ducks, the AA affiliate for the Cleveland Guardians. With the Rubber Ducks, Trey has a 4-1 record with a 3.45 ERA in 23 appearances in 2024. Moving on to the summer leagues, Ryan McChrystal had another excellent summer with the Burlington Sock Puppets. He has hung it up for the summer. Leading into the draft, he hasn't played for probably at least the last week or week and a half. Went to Greenville and then spending time with his family as he awaited his MLB draft fate. And again, congratulations to Rhino on being drafted in the 9th round, 269th overall by the Cincinnati Reds. But with the Sock Puppets, Rhino hit .373 with a couple of homers, 5 doubles, and 13 RBIs. Dixon Williams and Brad Pruitt have had all-star summers for the Newport Gulls. Dixon hitting right at .460, 2 bombs, 16 runs batted in 85 plate appearances. Meanwhile, Brad Pruitt has been stellar, as I mentioned earlier. He is 2-1 with a 1.77 ERA in 25 1/3 innings. He's allowed just 12 hits and has struck out 35 while walking just 8. Last summer, Dixon did very well with the Bethesda Big Train. Alec Burleson of the St. Louis Cardinals had done the same in his prior career. Now Keenan Bowman had an all-star summer for the Big Train in the Cal Ripken League. Davin Whitaker also playing very well for the Big Train, hitting over 300, I believe, the last I checked. Down in Charlottesville for the Tom Sox in the Valley League, Colby Wallace hitting .313. Nick Parham's also done some nice things for the Tom Sox. And then Carter Cunningham actually was another that also played for the Bethesda Big Train last summer after having an excellent year with the Tom Sox in 2022. But right now, without any further ado, this second half of the show, in this next 45 to 50 minutes, will be a recorded conversation from January of 2021 with the late Earl Boykin. We unfortunately lost the Pirate great in September of 2022. But Earl was a member of that 1961 East Carolina College NAIA National Champion team. And we're going to go to that conversation with Earl right now. Have this gentleman with us. He played on East Carolina's 1961 NAIA National Championship team. Welcome into the program, Earl Boykin. Earl, we appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to taking a trip down memory lane to talk about that magical season with the Pirates of East Carolina College back in 1961. But before we get to that, just take us back to the mid to late 1950s and talk about growing up in Eastern North Carolina. I know you're a native of Wilson County, so just talk about your days in high school and then your path to East Carolina.
Okay. I went to Rock Ridge High School, which is out in the county. And we were in a conference with 4 other schools in Wilson County, plus Bath, Belhaven, and Bellhaven and Chocowinity in football. Baseball, we were in the Wilson County schools. They had 7 teams in the county, and that was our conference at that time. And we won the conference championship in both 56 and 57. And we had a really good ball club. Had 4 guys on there went to college and played. And one of them signed pro baseball after having a football scholarship in Carolina. And he wound up going to Atlantic Christian and playing basketball. So he was a great athlete named Bobby Atkinson. Anyway, that's you probably not interested in that, but we had a bunch of good athletes on that team.
Absolutely. So tell us about your path to East Carolina College. I know your coach during those years was Coach Jim Mallory, and Coach Mallory's an East Carolina Hall of Famer. I want to say he was inducted to the ECU Hall of Fame on the athletic side there in 1978. Coach Mallory was the head coach from 1954 to 1962, which was the year after that NAIA National Championship team that you were part of. So tell us about Coach Mallory and how you came to be a Pirate.
Well, I came to be a Pirate in that I pitched against Gaylord Perry, who went on to win the Cy Young Award in both leagues, and did a reputable job against him. He could throw it so hard. Uh, anyway, Mallory and Coach Smith were umpires for that game. And he saw the kind of pitcher I was, and he asked me if I could come to school down there, which I did, and I'm glad I did. I met some great guys, great, great baseball players and men. And of the 13 that went to the national championship, only 6 are still living.
Wow.
Yeah, as far as Coach Mallory, he was an outstanding fundamental coach. Days that we rained and couldn't practice outside, we didn't go in the gym and take infield and stuff like that. We went to the classroom and we worked on fundamentals, day after day. And he taught, we knew what to do if the men was on first and third, with one man out in the second inning. If they steal second, what to do, what the catcher should do, the 3 mandates of a catcher. He all taught that very well. I have a lot of respect for Jim Mallory, who later became the Dean of Men in East Carolina.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you about that. I was reading up on Coach Mallory, certainly familiar with the name, but I wanted to familiarize myself with some of his accomplishments in addition to that 1961 NAIA National Championship, which we'll certainly touch on here in a few minutes. But Coach Mallory, I noticed in his Hall of Fame bio on ECPirates.com that, like you said, he was Dean of Men. I think he took on that role maybe in '59.
Yes, he did. And he was he would take batting practice with us. So he was still a good hitter at that age. He was probably mid-50s when he was coaching us. And he would take practice and he hit line drives. He was from South Boston, Virginia. I went to school at Carolina, played baseball at Carolina, and was a really good player. And all he hit was line drives.
Now, tell us about during those years. Where exactly was the baseball field located? It was over more on the central part of campus, not too far from Christiansburg. Is that correct? I know the football stadium was over there, old College Stadium.
It was right behind. We walked out the back door of the old gym, which is Christianberry Gym, and we walked you'd walk out the back door, and the backstop was right there at the back door of the old Christian Berry Gym. So that's it, faced going out towards the football field at the time. There's nothing back there now but classrooms. And
Right.
we played most of our games in there. We played some in Guy Smith.
Right. Yeah, I'd heard that Guy Smith was used some. Talk about during those years. I know you look at today's college baseball, you have a 35-man roster. Obviously, it was not that then. I know I read talking about the trip to the World Series, you guys only took like 14 players, but there were more than that on the roster that did not travel. So what was it, right around the 20-man roster or so?
Yeah, we had probably 22 guys on the team, and only Maury said the school couldn't afford to fly, but 13 of us. So they carried the 8 position players, an extra catcher, and 4 pitchers. Made the trip, and when we got out there, they had a banquet, and of course we were the last ones they introduced at the banquet. Then they gave all the teams a car or 2 cars to drive to the ball game. Well, we were the last ones they gave a car to, and they gave us a Volkswagen bus. So we all got on the Volkswagen bus. You remember the old Beetle buses, the hippies
Right.
all dressed up in the 50s, and took off to the ball game. We'd go over there and beat their rear ends, and we'd take their cars. And we'd beat their rear ends, and we'd take their cars. And when we left, we were had a car apiece.
Well, you talk about being last as far as the team being introduced last and getting that bus last. They wanted to save the best for last, right?
Well, we had the last left.
Absolutely. And I was reading an excellent article by Al Myatt. Al produced this piece for Bonesville.net back in, I guess, early June of 2019 when the Pirates were on their way to Louisville, just like you and your good buddy there and Wilson, Mike Radford, making that trip. Unfortunately, I was unable to do so, but go ahead.
Mike is sitting right here beside me.
Absolutely. I know,
Buddy.
I know Mike, understandably, thanks an awful lot of you, and I appreciate him assisting you with this tonight. I'm really excited about having you on. But Al Myatt in that article, which we'll share on the Sports Objective social media accounts when we share this podcast for the folks who are not watching right now live, Earl, I saw that Al said that you guys before taking the bus from Omaha to Sioux City, Iowa. I just wanted to bring that up that you guys flew into Omaha, which was pretty ironic given the Pirates' quest to get to Omaha now, the current home of the College World Series.
Yeah. And speaking of Al Myatt, he's a fine man. He was a great sport writer. I enjoyed being around Al. I'd love to see him now. I know he's a principal someplace down south in North Carolina.
Yes, sir. And so tell us about the tell us about the format back then. How many teams were there? Were there 8 teams?
There were 8 teams, and it was Defiance, Slippery Rock, University of Omaha, Grambling, Sacramento State, and that's all I can remember. But we beat Defiance, Ohio, the first game, and Larry Creighton pitched. And then we played Sam Houston State. That was another one. Sam Houston was defending champion. They had won the year before. And Lacey West pitched against them. And we beat them. And then we played Grambling, the black school from Grambling, Louisiana. And
Right.
Tommy Agee was playing center field for them, who later went on and played with New York Mets. And Creighton pitched against Tommy Agee and the Grambling team, struck out 19 guys. And I pitched the next game against University of Omaha, and they had the leading hitter in the nation that year, hitting over 550. And I struck him out 3 times and got struck out 15 myself. So we had a pretty good season. And by the way, our shortstop gets hurt the second game, and he is Glenn. Glenn had who was an outstanding football player, and he played shortstop for us. And he had a contract for $50,000 in 1961 to play for the Minnesota. I believe it was Minnesota. No,
Wow.
played pro football, and he gets hurt, sprained his ankle, and Maury couldn't play him anymore. So we had the third baseman, which was Lacey West, outstanding basketball player, the best player in North Carolina at the time. He went from third base to shortstop. Our right fielder went to left field, and we put a pitcher in left field. So that's the way we finished up the series. And the pitcher we put out in left field was Creighton played 1 game, and Lacey West played 2 games out there, and they got a total of 5 hits between them during the rest of that series. That was quite an accomplishment, if I do say so myself.
Oh, no doubt. And shifting gears a little bit, then we'll come back to the baseball. But I know after you guys drove over to Sioux City, Iowa from Omaha, what you guys, rather than being in a hotel or motel, y'all were staying at a local college. Is that right?
Morningside College was kind enough to give us dorm rooms to stay there. And the first game it was raining when we got there, and the first game was going to be rained out, and they called some Air Force base over near them who had a helicopter, and they sent the helicopter over there and dried that field off, and we played that night.
Wow. So just talk about the atmosphere. Tell us a little more. As far as the setting with the stadium and just the environment as far as the crowd and so forth.
We had great crowds, and of course we became the popular ones because we didn't have but just a few players. Maurer said while we were in the field one time, he heard somebody holler down, "Let's have some noise out of that dugout." He said, "There's nobody in here with me and Glenn Bass. We didn't even have a trainer." So nobody went with us but boy from the Greenville Reflector, Cecil Heath. Cecil Heath, who's in our Sports Hall of Fame at East Carolina, was a sports writer for the Greenville Reflector at the time, and he was the only extra person we carried.
So
But
tell
fans
us.
were great. Fans were great.
Awesome. And talk about back in those years. Tell us as far as a lot of times when you have such a major event. You touched on this a little bit earlier as far as the introduction of the teams and so on. So what was just the atmosphere like in the city of Sioux City, Iowa, and just maybe events they had for you guys while the World Series was going on?
Well, this was 1961. You got to remember. So they didn't have a lot of fanfare for us. Just had a banquet the night before we started playing, and we were the only team that flew into there. Everybody else drove a bus, and of course we didn't have a bus to drive. We had driven cars to Washington D.C. and took a plane out to Omaha. Omaha and uh, Sioux City is about 50 miles apart. So we got a bus, rented a bus, and drove over to Sioux City on it.
Now, was that the first time that you and your teammates had flown? Do you recall that?
Yes, it was the first time I had flown, and Cotton Clayton had never flown. In fact, as I said earlier, he was one of the best basketball players in North Carolina, if not the best. He had the state record for the most points in a season until the boy that went to Carolina and was signed with Carolina and got caught for something and had to go someplace else. And Cotton said
Right,
when he didn't go to NC State because that was a premier basketball school at the time. He didn't go to NC State because they flew, and he was afraid of flying. So
right.
when we took off, I looked over at Cotton, and he was just as white as a ghost. So it was,
I can imagine so. So you know, you talked about some of the games and how things went, but just talk about the championship and how things unfolded and bringing home the title back to Greenville.
well, when we won the thing, and about everything, about brought all the medals home, the championship trophy, the sportsmanship trophy, and 3 all tournament teams. Creighton and Merle Bynum and Cotton Clayton made the all tournament team. And when we got back to Greenville, we of course flew back into Washington D.C. and took as I said, we drove cars. The whole team rode up there on 4 cars, and as we were coming back, when we got to the North Carolina line, there was a state trooper waiting for us at the North Carolina line, and he led us into Greenville. I think a Greenville Police Department car met us out in Bethel, and he led us into Greenville. And they had a little flatbed trailer out in the mall in front of the dining hall, and they put us up on the flatbed trailer. And that's the picture that you got from the team with the flag, the national championship flag.
Right,
Uh, they put us on that and introduced us to the student body. And of course, we had probably 10,000 students at the time, and it seemed like every one of them was there.
right. And I
Well,
remember.
but
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
there wasn't that many there because it was summer school.
Right. And no, I remember you mentioned that with the banner, the flag, and what it said 1961 NAIA National Champions. And I remember one of the images, looking at the media guide when I was growing up. When I think of East Carolina baseball, that's one of the things I think of because I remember making the remark to my dad how cool that was seeing that national championship.
Yeah, yeah, it was quite an experience.
So
Something
I
I'll
know
get.
something that Al Myatt had also touched on in that article was how you were asked to play football at East Carolina. So talk about that, and then the decision you made, or you actually what went out for a little bit, and just stuck with baseball.
Yes, I went out for. In fact, Meyer had recruited me to play baseball and football. I was a quarterback in high school, and of course we played 6-man football, and people had never heard of 6-man football, especially the boys from Virginia. And when I got to school, I was introducing myself and stuff. And where'd you go to high school? I went to Rock Ridge, and nobody had ever heard of Rock Ridge. And what'd you play? I played everything: football, basketball, baseball. But football was 6-man. They said 6-man football. Did you play 3-man basketball? And they thought that was funny. I didn't think it was so funny, but we had a good time. And as far as going to school, I did. Uh, Bowery had asked me to go there as to play football and basketball. I didn't want to play football. There's too many men on the field in football. And anyway, I did, and it was the worst workout I have ever been through. I'd never been through a practice like that. Just the exercises and stuff we did before we started practice about wore me out.
Right, and if I'm remembering correctly, that was pretty soon, shortly after legendary coach Clarence Stasovich had arrived from Lenore Ryan. Is that right?
Coach Sass came to East Carolina in 1961.
Right. Okay. I thought I had my timeline there right because if I remember correctly, I know we had three consecutive 9-1 seasons, and I couldn't remember if that was 61 to 63 or 63 to 65.
Yeah, yeah, he was outstanding coach and a good man.
Yeah, I've heard some stories about Coach Stass. So it would have been awesome to
Yeah,
to have
but
had the opportunity to have met him.
I had a lot of friends that played football over there. Earl Sweet being one of them, and Ed Emery. And of course, Earl said that Coach Sasovich, somebody was getting a fight during practice, and he wouldn't break it up. He said, "Let's move practice on the other side and let them. They'll set it out. They'll they'll separate them one another." So that's the way he coached. If you got hurt, uh, trainer go over and take a look at it. He'll get up after a while. Let's move to the other side of the field and continue practicing.
And Earl, you read my mind. I was going to bring up Ed Emery, for some Pirate football coach there in the early '80s, and led the East Carolina program through the tremendous 8-3 season in 1983, where they were nearly undefeated, on the verge of playing for national championship, and they um, came up with 13 points shy in total against three Florida schools, and the three powers you think of when you think of college football in the state of Florida, and that being Florida State, where we lost by one, and also at the Swamp, 24-17, and then I guess it was 12-7 at Miami, where we had two receivers run together in the end zone. Otherwise, we win that game, and Miami went on to win the national championship. But let's talk about Coach Emery. I knew Coach Emery had played football for us prior to becoming an assistant coach and then head coach. But yeah, tell us about Big Ed.
Well, Ed was a fraternity role, and he was outstanding to me. He's always good to me. But you always wanted him on your side if you got in a fight. Ed was a good guy and
Yeah,
an outstanding coach and recruiter. I remember a story I can tell this one. He was recruiting the boy from big old boy from Windsor, Bertie County. And he sent one of his assistants down there to talk to him and try to talk him into coming back to East Carolina. He had been there for about 6 months and dropped out of school and just left. So he went down and asked if I'm trying to think of his name now. Tootie Robbins. If Tootie was there, and nobody would, cause there's somebody looking for Tootie Robbins, they think, well, maybe Tootie owes some money. They don't want to talk to you. So he came back and said, Coach, I couldn't find Tootie. What do you mean you couldn't find him? Well, I asked everybody around there. He said, well, you don't know how to ask. You got to go to the local hangout where they all hang out and say, look, you're looking for Tootie Robbins. You're from the insurance company. You got a check for him. And he did that. And within 20 minutes, Tootie showed up on his car looking for his check. And thank God Ed recruited him because he was an outstanding player, played in the NFL for a number of years, outstanding football player.
He most definitely was that. Tootie Robbins, he played for Pirate legend Pat Dye, and then, like you said, Coach Emery was understandably wanting to get Tootie back in the program, and he did that. And then Tootie Robbins went on to the tremendous career in the NFL. I remember him playing for the Phoenix Cardinals.
Yes, he did.
And maybe you can shed some light on this. I want to say a book that I read a few years ago that Coach Emery, is there truth to this story? Had he wrestled a bear maybe at one?
I'm sorry.
I want to say, yeah, no problem. Again. Ed Emery, you were talking about him, just being tough, and you wanted him on your side if you were to get in a fight. Coach Emery, did you ever hear a story? Did he wrestle a bear or something? I want to say that. Maybe I'm mistaken.
I don't know anything about the bear story. I know he got at the alumni game. He got in a fight with a boy from Goldsboro, big old boy that played in the NFL for us. And his son lives in Greenville now. He played baseball for East Carolina. One of the legendary boys from Goldsboro. I'll try to think of his name in a minute. Lou Hallows.
Okay.
And he and Lou got in a fight during the alumni game. I mean, had been teammates a couple of years before, but Lou had graduated and was in pro ball, like I said, at the time. And of course, he and Ed had a disagreement on the field, and they were out fighting during the spring game.
Yeah. Well, that story about the bear, I probably dreamed that up, either that or who knows, maybe it was mentioned in a book. Is maybe, who knows, maybe an urban legend of sorts, due to Coach Emery's toughness. But and talk about your time after East Carolina. I know you opened a sporting goods store, and you've done that for years and years.
Well, I have taught for 2.5 years at Fremont, right out of college, and lost 10 football games in a row in 1964. And I said, there got to be something else I could do. I'd never been used to losing in my life. So I, a local sporting goods guy named Gene Summerlin called on us, and I said, Gene, have you ever thought about going into business for yourself? He said, yeah. I said, well, let's try to put a sporting goods store in Wilson. Of course, they had one at the time, but it was not a traveling store. They didn't call on schools and stuff. So we started that in 1965 called Sportsville. And I have been in that business ever since. In 1983, Gene and I separated, and I opened my own store named Earl Boykin Sports, which is still operating in Brentwood Shopping Center. And I have enjoyed every minute of it, except for last about 6 months. I've been I fell and broke my hip, and I've been kind of housebound since this with the covert and the broken hip. I haven't been to the store that much, but anyway.
But talk about you mentioned everything going on with the COVID-19 pandemic since the middle of last March. So over the last 10 months or so, just tell us, from someone that's in the sporting goods business, and supplying everything that's necessary, for your Wilson County high schools, like Pike, etc. But just talk about the challenges of that the pandemic have presented.
It has really been a challenge. We have had to sell things that I never thought we'd be selling. We are now selling uh, mask, uh, disinfectant. We even got in a shipment of bullets last week, and of course we sold them out in 3 days. So we're trying to get some more bullets. Everybody's looking at bullets at a time. But it's been a good living for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had some great help. Great guys were running the store and girls, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my time there.
Now, as a result of being in the sporting goods business and just down through the years, obviously you're interacting with a lot of local known commodities in terms of high school coaches and so forth. But did you ever cross paths with any famous athletes from the state of North Carolina or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I run into them all the time. Uh, in fact, we played with one Marion Talton, who's a good friend, and he played with the Giants and Kansas City. And of course, one of our teammates played with Toronto Blue Jays named Floyd Wicker. He was the only one. We had 7 guys off our team to sign pro, and he was the only one that made it to the big leagues. Floyd had started with St. Louis and then went with Toronto, and he was up there for 3 years. I thought we had some that were a little better, but through different things, like Creighton was a really good pitcher, and he hurt his arm in South Dakota. They sent him to South Dakota as soon as he got back to Greenville. And it was cold up there. He hurt his arm. He never could throw quite as good since then.
Right. You actually you talk about an arm injury. Tell us about obviously things, not only coaches' approach because of all the knowledge that we have as far as injuries and things that we can do in terms of strength and conditioning, et cetera, to take care of a pitcher's arm. But talk about back in those days, it was nothing for a pitcher's pitch count to get significantly higher than it is now.
Well, they didn't even count pitches back then, and the coaches didn't call balls and strikes from the dugout. It was a completely different ball game. Uh, you were the pitcher for the day. In fact, in the national playoffs, Lacey West was pitching the final game against Sacramento State. And they got hot in about the second or third inning and scored a bunch of runs. And they were up like 12-2 after about 3 innings. And Lacey was just struggling. They were hitting him all over the park. Of course, they had a good team. And Maurer went out to him and said, "Look, Lacey, I know you don't want to be out here to hitting you hard, but I'm not going to waste an old pitcher. You're going to be the rest pitcher for the rest of the game. We're not wasting an old pitcher out here. We'll go ahead and lose this game because we hadn't lost, and they had already lost the game. It was double elimination. So he finished the game up. We lost by about 8, but I guess they ran all their runs out in that game because we beat them by 6 the next game.
Right.
You were the pitcher for that day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And shifting gears a little bit, Earl, I know you're a very avid follower of East Carolina baseball and just East Carolina athletics in general. And that's where I had the opportunity to meet you is at Clark LeClaire Stadium, watching the Pirates. So, and I talked about earlier in the show how you had made the Louisville Super Regional back in 2019. So just talk about you following the program. You're a season ticket holder. You had the opportunity to throw out the first pitch a few seasons ago. And so just talk about your love of the Pirates and, loving to be at Clark LeClaire Stadium watching Cliff Godwin's ball club.
Well, I'll tell you, it makes my week when we got a couple of home games, and me and Mike can go over there. He has since left to go home, but Mike is a godsend for me. He takes me to all the ball games, and I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a good brand of baseball. Our coach is outstanding man and baseball man. He has recruited well. He has got us where we're in the top 10 consistently, and we're going to continue it, I think. I look forward to seeing what this season's going to bring. I'm really a East Carolina fan. I've been in the Pirate Club for the last 40 years. I love, I support the baseball program and go to all the football games. And I'm looking forward to next year in football. This is the first year that I didn't see a football game in person since 1975.
Wow. Yeah. Um, yeah. Hate that was the case, but certainly more than understandable why you didn't. Don't want to do anything to jeopardize your health. But the good news is you're able to watch the Pirates on TV this year. Like you're saying, I think Mike Houston definitely has that program headed back in the direction it needs to be, where we're going to be going to bowl games on an annual basis and hopefully competing for an American Athletic Conference championship.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And my bucket list is to go to the national playoffs in Omaha. I'm looking forward to that, and I've told our coach that. Cliff said, "Don't worry, before you die, you're gonna get to go." So I'm looking forward to it. We'll be
Absolutely.
right
Go ahead. I'm sorry. We had a little bit of a delay there.
No problem. I was saying I'm looking forward to going to Omaha. That's on my bucket list.
No doubt. I will be right there with you, Lord willing, when that happens. Like you're saying, Cliff Godwin, Jeff Palumbo, Jason Dietrich, and this coaching staff, they continue to stack talent on talent. And with the talent that they're assembling in Greenville, with our roster being what it is, and it's only a matter of time before we break through and get to Omaha. And I can only imagine what it will be like when that does happen. Our pitching staff is deeper than it's ever been.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope so. Well, that's what carries your team is a good pitching staff, I think. Of course, good hitters are hard to come by too. But we have always had good hitters, and we're gonna have more this year.
No doubt. And
Done a job recruiting, keeping us fresh guys in there, and we hope we got everybody back from last year, with except the seniors that graduated.
one of the top guys we have back on the mound, Earl, is of course Gavin Williams, the 6'6" right-hander. And talk about Gavin. Gavin can get it up there to 100 plus.
Yeah, he. That was the first time I had ever seen 100 miles an hour on the scoreboard. It was the first pitch against was it NC State or Campbell last year?
Are you talking about the game in the regional? Then,
Year before last,
yeah, we played Campbell in that regional championship, but if you're talking about a game in Greenville, that was probably it. As far as there was a game against North Carolina at the Durham Bulls Athletic Park, and that night against the Tar Heels, that was game 2 of that 3-game series. I guess it was 2018, and that pitch that night against the Tar Heels was at least 100, if not 101. And I remember being on social media and people from Baseball America and Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball, they were talking about how Gavin Williams had just hit triple digits in Durham.
Yeah, I remember that. He threw a 101. But I was not at that game. One of the few games I missed. But I look forward to seeing him throw his film this year.
No doubt about it.
The older, you're stronger.
Yep. Hopefully some Pirate fans will be able to get out to Clark LeClaire Stadium, but not. The good news is we're able to watch the games online now, which wasn't the case all that many years ago. Thinking back to, I remember when Coach O, Gary Overton, East Carolina's all-time winningest coach, was in charge there in the late 90s before Coach LeClaire took over. I guess 97 was Coach O's last year. But Coach O's final year, we were playing in the CAA tournament at Granger Stadium in Kinston, and we didn't even have a game tracker. We had to call the press box to get a score.
Well, things have changed, haven't they?
Yep, and certainly enjoy checking out the Pirates online whenever I'm able to see them in person.
When I played, and now they have 3 or 4 different hats and at least a half a dozen different uniforms. When I played, we had one hat, and it was a Scully, a plastic Scully with the interlocking EC on the front of it. And that's what you wore on the field, at bat, and in the dugout. Everybody wore a Scully. We didn't have any hats. A felt hat.
Right, and you talk about that awesome looking hat with the interlocking EC. They remade those a few years ago, and I actually purchased one. But with my big head, the flex fit hat was was not working for me, so I unfortunately had to return it to the UBE. But hopefully we'll make that hat again, and if not, heck, for my individual use, I'll go out and have one made, because it's not like I'm trying to sell it. I just want it for myself. It's a sharp looking hat. You actually have it on right now.
We have an embroidery shop at our store, and we can make a hat for you.
I just need to order me a hat that will fit my big head, and
I'll be glad to give you one.
And we'll have to make that happen. And the one I ordered, it had the interlocking EC as you have on right now, and then they had 1961 NAIA National Champions on the side of it, and then the old school pirate on the back.
Yeah, we can put the Lord's Prayer on it if you want to.
Well, Earl, it's been a blast catching up. I know let me put some of the comments on the screen, and this one particular comment I wanted to put up from William Grant, better known as Bubba. Also, of course, the brother of Beth Grant, the famous actress. So Bubba Grant chimed in. He said, "Oh my, I love this so much. Thank you." So you're certainly welcome, Bubba. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate everyone that's tuning in right now. There you have that interview with Earl Boykin that, again, was recorded back in January of 2021 before we lost Earl in September of 2022. He being a member of that 1961 NAIA National Championship team for what was then East Carolina College. Before we get out of here and wrap up episode 2 of Jungle Tales, another quick update on the 2024 MLB Draft. We have had a 6th Pirate selected. Eric Ritchie went in the 19th round to the Philadelphia Phillies. So again, now 6 ECU players have been drafted. You had Trey Savage going 20th overall to the Toronto Blue Jays. Jacob Jenkins-Cowart going in the 8th round to the Miami Marlins. In the 9th round, you had Ryan McChrystal, and the Pirate catcher and designated hitter from this season, being taken by the Cincinnati Reds. Bart, a.k.a. Carter Cunningham, went in the 10th round to the Toronto Blue Jays. Then in the 16th, you had Wyatt Lunsford-Shinkman getting drafted by the Mariners. And now in the 19th round, the Southpaw, Eric Ritchie, by the Philadelphia Phillies. We appreciate everyone tuning in to Jungle Tales. Be sure to follow us on social media, on X and Instagram. You can find us at Jungle Tales Pod. Again, at Jungle Tales Pod. Make sure you're following us there, but then sharing, liking, commenting, all those things. Then the podcast can be found on YouTube at Jungle Tales Pod. Soon we'll be able to broadcast on Facebook live. In the meantime, you can find Jungle Tales Pod. We have a group on Facebook. Search Jungle Tales Podcast, ECU Baseball, and you'll be able to find us. And then on SoundCloud, Spotify, as well as some other podcast platforms, you can find Jungle Tales. That will conclude this edition of Jungle Tales. We'll talk to you soon. And as always, go Pirates.